Thank you very much, Prince Adebayo and Malam Yusuf, for joining us on the candidates and for saying yes to this important conversation.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much.
Now, yes, so you are 2 out of a field of, I think, over 18, as I understand it. Well, 18 people contesting for the presidency, plus the VP post, that's times 2. So Nigerians, in many ways, one can say, are spoiled for choice. Why should they choose you?
Well, it's quite easy because the voters are not supposed to look at the faces of the people running. They should look inward and look at the problems that they want to solve. So when it's like you wake up in the morning and you try to get to work, it doesn't matter how many people are in front of you. You want to look for your driver because you want to get to work. And just like in a bank, you want to catch a check. It doesn't matter how many people are in the banking hall. You want to go to the cashier to cash a check. And if you are sick, it doesn't matter how many people are around you, you focus on the doctor. You want to see the doctor. So for people in Nigeria who are trying to solve the problem of insecurity, who are trying to deal with poverty, who want infrastructure to work, who want to have a stable economy where you can have employment, who generally want to make progress and they want to run very good school system, the choices are very limited because from the 18, about 4 or so have been people who have been given opportunity in the past and they failed woefully. So you would easily know that if they had any talent at all.
That still leaves 14 other candidates.
Yes, so if they had a chance at all, or if they had any ideas at all, they should have used them in all these years. So those ones, they're out. Then you listen to the rest, and you start to ask questions as well. You see where they touch you. So for us, I think that we've handled all the issues. We've explained how we're going to govern the country.
Okay, so no, you haven't, not on this space.
Oh, well.
And which is why we need to sort of get beyond the sort of what you were saying and actually get into the details. I'm interested in hearing you tell me what it is that qualifies you and Malam Yusuf to be president and vice president come 2023 in real specific terms.
Okay, first, let's look at it. We have an understanding that this country has all the endowment that it needs. We also agree with Chinua Achebe that leadership is the problem of Nigeria. And we also agree that the leadership will not change itself. It is the people who have to change the leadership. Now, we also agree that when you want to choose a leader, you will want to know whether the leader understands the problem of the country. And for me, there are 5 problems we need to deal with in this country. One is that we need to kick poverty out once and for all. At the same time, we need to get a hang on our security situation. We need to restore communities. We need to make sure that the law enforcement works for everyone. We need to see that public safety is important. Nobody fears the night and nobody worries about the day. We also need certain infrastructure, roads, telecommunication, electricity, very importantly, and other tools for our people to be able to live in 2022. The way our people live now, they live like 1920. We also need to make investment in complying with Chapter 2 of our Constitution. Because the Chapter 2 of the Constitution is a social democratic manifesto, which we all agreed upon in 1977 at the Constituent Assembly. And the idea was that it doesn't matter who you vote into power. If Chapter 2 of the Constitution is complied with, everyone would agree that we need to give food stability to our people. We need to give decent housing to our people.
Shelter.
We need to give them water. We need to educate the young to the point where they can make a decision about their career. We need to guarantee health care to our people. And we need to balance the country in such a way that Everyone has a sense of belonging in the country.
I'm
So
not
these are
trying
the
to-
things
Yes,
which
okay.
only we are campaigning on. So you have no other alternative.
No, I think when you talk to even the average Nigerian on the street,
Yes.
and they can tell you that these are the problems.
Yes.
The taste of the pudding is in the eating,
Yes.
like English people like to say.
Yes.
So it's really the how that we're now trying to understand. Maybe I can bring in Malam Yusuf here, because I took a little bit of time and went through your manifesto, the party manifesto. And one of the first things that struck me was that you guys are talking about some sort of devolution of power,
yes,
and also some sort of unification of the country.
Yes.
So what I want to know is the how, and why those two things were sort of so central to your manifesto when you put it together.
Okay, first, the how.
Yes.
The how is this. You need to do certain things through the public sector.
Okay.
And to do that, you need to have accountability. That is to say, right now, we in the Social Democratic Party, between two of us, we know more about the public finance than even the government in place now.
Yeah, like what do you know that the
For
government
example,
might not know?
There are four things. We were the one who blew the whistle that the narrative, which even the media was buying into, and the other campaigns were buying into, that the country is broke, and that we had to borrow money to even finance our current budget. We were the one who said, no, that's not true. The country is not broke. 80% of the crude oil is being stolen.
Okay, so let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Because that claim, you've made it again and again.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem to be based on anything tangible. We've sort of gone out and looked at the numbers. If you look at sort of what government is reporting, government is reporting a little bit over 100-something thousand barrels stolen a day. We're supposed to be, doing about 2 million a day. We're doing about 1.5. So your numbers are not tallying up. Even independents that have looked at this have said that they haven't seen the basis for your claim that 80% of the oil is being stolen. So if that's the basis for saying Nigeria is rich, it's a problematic basis.
Okay, now let's take it away. When you are getting three things, I'll tell you. One, they didn't acknowledge at all when I started that anything was being stolen. They said everything was in order. And the entire media was quiet. All these people who are breaking statistics, they were all quiet. Later, they said I was wrong, it's only 75%. I don't know if you listen to the Chief of Naval Staff, who has primary responsibility for our maritime security. He came and said the figure which I was citing, I think it was Channels TV or so, that it accounted for other losses rather than theft. All of these people who are bringing figure, second problem they have is that they are taking secondary data. So they go to NNPC and take data. But last week, I was at Focados. I went to the field myself. I went past NNS Striker. Many of them have not seen. I saw vessels. Then they haven't checked the Lloyd records, have they? They haven't checked. They are checking record of the thief. Who is stealing it? What do? You go to a flow station. They are recording. They load 3 million barrels. They record 500,000 barrels. That's the record that the people who want to fact check us are checking.
Okay.
Now, I give you a second point.
I don't want us to get bogged down into sort of how much fuel is being stolen. Let's assume you're right.
I'm right.
And that, okay, so in your books, if we're able to get back that money, that makes Nigeria rich? Is that, because that's what you seem to be saying.
This is common sense, because if you are losing
200 million people without education.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
You can be rich and illiterate.
Right.
So whether you have education or not, has nothing to do with whether you are rich or not.
Yes.
What we are saying is that Nigeria is a family that has enough wealth to educate all her children. Whether you want to educate your children or not is a different matter. So let us not confuse that.
Okay.
What we are saying is that they reported that they want to do these good things for us, but we are too broke.
Okay.
They are saying because of COVID, because of international situation and economic globally, we are saying that's not true. That this period now, countries of our profile, Russia, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, they're making money. So you can't tell me that. That's number one. Number two, because you are now losing $4 billion regularly like nothing, you are now having a very scrawny budget that doesn't meet the needs of your people. We have a 20 trillion thereabout budget this year. In reality, when I checked it, the actual budgeting takes them to about 16.5 billion. National Assembly just added some figures to it to make it come to 19. They later, overnight, they changed to 20. So the figures are not real. But even leave that. They are now borrowing 10-point-something trillion to be able to even keep that budget.
Okay, so Prince, now, I'm not interrupting you, but 2 hours seems like a long time, but it actually isn't.
Yes.
I'm trying to tell me, so you're talking about what others are doing wrong. And 10, 15 minutes have gone by. I'm trying to understand what is going to make what are you going to do if today you become president and vice president to tackle, maybe what we should do is break down the problems. So let's look at the economy, which you started on, for example. Rapid rising inflation, 2 digits, double digits, unemployment of the sort and underemployment that we've never seen before, and food inflation really high. If you today enter the presidency, can you tell me the 2 things that you will do instantly, immediately, to try and tackle these issues that have a direct bearing on the lives of Nigerians?
First, people must understand when we talk that we're not talking about this figure because we want to report crime. We are saying this is the reason why all these factors you are mentioning, that is to say you are earning income and is lost. As a result of that, you brought poverty upon yourself. Because you also have that, you will be able to build your foreign reserve. Because you can't build your foreign reserve, your currency will suffer. Because you can't make investment in your economy will shrink further. So you will go into maybe...
So your first step is to do what?
Account for the income that the country has.
Okay, so plug the leakages.
Yes, so when you account for the income, this. First, they follow me. When I'm president, I won't be shouting on TV. I will generally collect my money. The other monies that the oil companies are owing, I will collect the money. The tax that is being underreported, I will collect that. The 16 trillion in waivers, which is in the book, which is being given to about 12 or 13 people who are friends of politicians, I will collect that. So I will give you a balanced budget. I will not borrow more money. And I will invest in infrastructure. I will be able to create, within a short order, public sector direct employment of teachers, of nurses, of doctors, pay doctors well. I give you about 4 million jobs right there. Because I'm receiving this money, it's not being secreted away in Switzerland and being stolen, I'll be able to give you a stable foreign exchange that can take the naira to have parity, to have stability, not parity.
Okay.
When I have that, I can now attract investment to create 30 million jobs in 5 sectors.
And when we come back from our break, I'm going to take you up on that issue of ability to create 30 million jobs. But we haven't heard from Malam Yusuf Buhari, your running mate. So I want him to come in. And with him in particular, I'm interested in asking him his thoughts around devolution of power, because it's something that I also read in your... So what does that mean to you, particularly as someone who comes from the North, where the perception tends to be that the North is generally against restructuring?
Thank you very much. The reality is that in the North, the way the power is structured right now has given so much to the state governments. The state governments have become police over the local governments. So I think the devolution of power in this, what I understand, is that more power to the local governments and to the smaller units of government. And that is really what we need.
What about the center as currently constituted? Are you satisfied with the way, the federating units work now? Or when you guys say you're going to, when people talk about devolution, they're talking sometimes state policing, they're talking about how to share resources, derivation for people who have mineral resources and other sorts of resources. Sometimes they're talking about the independence of the judiciary. What is it for the SDP?
The thing is that, honestly, it is better that some businesses, some activities that are best suited for the state remain with the state. There are some things that are in the exclusive list, which definitely we have to move to the states. As for the judiciary, the CBN, all of them, the way they function right now, there isn't really that much independence. You know, there's a lot of interference. So we are going to, what we are working towards is to see complete independence in their functionality.
Okay. And we're going to take a break, but before we do, it's important that I say that in addition to people here in the studio who are going to be joining us and asking questions of our candidates, we also have 6 sites in 6 Nigerian universities across our 6 geopolitical zones. We will be joining them because, you know, they also want to ask questions. We'll also be taking questions on our social media platform. And some people have actually sent us written questions via emails. All of that we will get to after this short break. Don't go away.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Welcome back. You are watching The Candidates. My name is Kedria Ahmed, and I'm in conversation with the candidates of the Social Democratic Party, Prince Adebayo and Malam Yusuf Buhari. Now, before the break, we started talking about your ambitious plan to create 30 million jobs. I looked at that number and I was very excited. The problem was I didn't find any documentation, and I've sort of been looking at papers where you kind of explain in very clear terms which sectors you're going to use to create the jobs. So if for example, you're going to create jobs in tech, how many you're intending to create in tech, how will tech create those jobs, is it in agriculture, do you understand what I'm saying? And so this is the opportunity to actually tell us in, you know, practical terms what exactly, where exactly these jobs are going to come from. And then after you answer that, I will open the conversation up to people across the country, those here in the studio with us, but also those at home, so they can ask questions.
Okay, it's very clear. I've explained many times, but I can explain it again. And I've demonstrated it. I'm an investment lawyer, and all my life I've gone around the world with US companies, setting up companies all over the world. What basically I tend to do with the 30 million jobs, because when I looked at our finances, I realized that there are 2 problems we have. We can't have enough money to meet Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is to invest in social infrastructure, social investment, at the same time have money to create industries. I realized that why don't I do what I've been known for? So in June, it's all on record, I went to Washington, D.C., and I met with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And I started talking to my colleagues there, and I said, how can we create jobs in Nigeria? Because we've done that, I've gone all over the world with them. And we came up with 5 sectors. 1 is agriculture and agro-allied. 2 is ICT and technology. 3 is social sector like education and health. 4th is infrastructure. And 5th has to do with new technology like cryptocurrency, like blockchain, and like crypto generally. And these are not jobs that you have to dream about. These are jobs which the companies involved are already dealing with. All they need to do is to include Nigeria in the bracket of those countries. You will see, for example, that if you take an Apple phone, Apple is from Cupertino, California. Now, but they produce their work in China. If you call a typical bank, UBS, any of them, the customer service person is going to answer you from Kerala, India, or wherever. But Nigeria is outside it. Why? Because we have 4 problems. We have a problem of perception with regards to corruption and all of the rest. So, even when I practice law, before I joined politics, I will go around the world with companies. When I try to attract them to Nigeria, I can't even get them to get visas without somebody asking for something that annoys you. Well, I give an example of a company that I was alive for many years. They go around the world and build airports. And they located somewhere in the south of Nigeria as a hub for haulage and other things. We presented to the governor of the state. Just give us the land, we signed the agreement, we build the airport. He didn't take it. He went and took the money of the state to build a poor version of that airport. So what I'm trying to do now is to say, no country who is rapidly developing, be it Turkey, be it India, be it any of the countries, be it Thailand, be it even
China, which has created millions of jobs, but none of them have done 30 million in 18 months.
They have done, no, let's just get it right. None of them is budgeting from their own appropriation. China did not budget money for Apple to come to their country. What you do is that you create a condition around that people can bring their investment. Now the 30 million jobs.
What you are talking about is not so much that you say you are creating jobs. I think that is making people pause. Is the number within the period that you say you're going to create. So if you look at a country like Nigeria, you've enumerated the problems. Lack of confidence, perception. And you're basically saying within 18 months, you're going to turn this around to the extent that in less than 2 years, 30 million jobs can be created. It's very far-fetched.
Let me tell you why it's not far-fetched, so that you don't understand. You see, I don't want you to accept the failure you have been facing over the years. Let me give you an example. If you want to build, if you select 100 roads, and you want to build 100 roads of 200 kilometers, how many people are you going to employ? And if you look at Nigeria, we have enough money to be able to build select 200 roads of 4 lanes each and build 200 kilometers.
So when you talk about jobs, you're talking about, so you're talking about non-skilled jobs of laborers and all of that. Those are the kind of jobs you're talking about.
I don't know what to call non-skilled job. A person who makes this chair is skilled enough.
Of course,
it's part of the arrogance of the elite to say that a journalist is a skilled job. But the person who fixes a road that makes you not to die is not skilled. I don't believe in that. If you take somebody, for example, I took about 2,000.
I have to go to Ibadan, and we'll come back and discuss this, because the government that you've criticized, for example, has done something similar using the 774 local governments in this country. And I remember the criticism of that job scheme that was driven by, I think it was the minister, Festus Keyamo. But we'll come back to that. Let's join Ibadan on the line, and I think we have Mr. Niron Adesonya in Ibadan. Can you hear us, Niron? Is Ibadan online?
Yes, we're online.
Okay.
So
please go, Ibadan.
Of course, okay, we've been listening to the conversation so far.
Okay, we can't hear Ibadan, so it will be very difficult for the candidates to respond.
Okay.
If Ibadan is not ready, I can take a few of the email questions we have here. I did promise I will not dominate this conversation, and I will try as much as possible to get Nigerians to sort of ask as many questions as they are asking. So we have a few questions that came via email, and I'll take a few of them and ask you. I thought I would have the names of the people, because I don't want to ask questions without... here we go. Forgive me. Okay. Right. Professor Oyewale Tomori, who is a well-known virologist, sent in a question. He said, given the poor state of our health system, the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak, and the perennial outbreaks of such endemic diseases like yellow fever, monkeypox, cholera, etc., what concrete and specific plans does your party have to combat and control these outbreaks? What plans do you have to prevent future outbreaks of unknown diseases? And if you become president, what will you do not to become the poster image of medical tourism, as is currently the case in the country?
No, thank you, Prof.
Professor Tomori.
Yeah, you see, first thing, Olukoya Kuti laid the foundation on issue of primary health care. He was very good at it. Second, we also have a national program on immunization. So what you do, when I was young, I remember they chased me all over the school to try to give me inoculation against diphtheria, against measles, and all the rest. That's why I am not crippled now. So what we need to do is to ensure that we follow that chapter 2 of the Constitution, which says that you must vote enough money for taking care of your people. I know there are some international interventions coming in, but for us, we will ensure that at every local level, at every ward level, there's a primary health care center. That is where there is one project which was approved around the year 2000 or 2001, which was to put a medical center in every local government. That project has stalled. As a private person, I assisted them to try to get that project to go and give them the consultation. So what I believe is that first, you must give your people good nutrition, and that's what we're going to do. A hungry person who is given a vaccine is meaningless. So we give them good nutrition. Secondly, we give them the calendar. We follow the calendar to immunize every child. And in some area where there's cultural concern about this, we talk to traditional rulers to see that they guide the people. Now, the issue of medical tourism doesn't apply to me. Right now, a medical doctor is in National Hospital in Abuja. I don't see any reason why I will go overseas for that. When I live overseas, I receive medical care overseas. But thank God.
So what is not clear is how you are first of all going to do anything different, because nothing you're saying here is not part of. There's already planning for all of that within the current healthcare policy, including the new Healthcare Act that has been signed, which has made insurance compulsory for every single Nigerian. Before you get to that, let me go to the studio audience. No, they're not false. They're not false.
You don't be confused regarding what is written in the book. No, there's a confusion between what is written in the book and outcome.
But that's what I'm telling you. You are also telling me exactly what is in the book.
No,
You're not telling me how your outcome will be different.
No, I'm telling you the outcome will be different by keeping the calendar. What it means is this. In each of those units, you must have primary health care consultant there. You must have a dietitian there. You must have a maternity person there. You must pay them well. That is why I'm trying to capture your money and invest that money. What is happening now? Let me tell you something. The reason why the MPI is even working at all is that they are relying on donor money. The counterpart funding is not being paid. And if you go to many hospitals, they don't work. So what we need to do, our one is different. It's only what is written in the book. What was written in Balewa time was enough. So nothing new needed to be written, but the actual following up. Go to anybody in their community and ask them, where is the extension health worker? You don't see it. In our own time, we put them there. That's the how.
Okay. Let's go to the audience, because again, I don't want this to be an interview. I actually genuinely want people to ask questions. If you have a question, please tell us your name and then ask your question, and we'll come back to the candidates.
Hi, hello. Hello.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is Precious Obala. So my question goes to you, sir. You mentioned the sections which you feel that can help create employment, the 30 million jobs. So I wanted to say something. The film industry is creating millions of jobs and contributing to various economies globally. So in your 5 sectors, you did not mention the creative sector. What happened to the creative sector? Because when you check other countries, even our neighboring countries here like Kenya, South Africa, the film industry alone can create the 30 million jobs. I'm sure of it. So what about the creative sector? Did you forget it, or is it something you don't have in mind at all?
Okay. And before we come back to him, I think we should take 2 more, if there's any other person. Yes, this gentleman in front here. So we need, don't stay only upstairs with the mics, please. Bring one down here. The gentleman in red.
Thank you. So my potential president and potential vice president, my name is Adewale Adebayo. Just about the world clocked 8 billion in population. What's your plan when it's said that Nigeria in the next decade thereabouts will be the 3rd most populous nation on earth, even overtaking America? Are you thinking of the demographics? We look all around, it's almost all factors are undesirable: poverty level, insecurity, and all this cliche. What is Prince Adebayo going to do if he becomes a president in the first 100 days why should I still want to say that, oh, I'm proud of my president? Because he will tackle this, like I said, I mean, I've listened to you, and I can say that it's always very easy to campaign in poetry. Oh, 30 million jobs. But if you have an assembly that will not cooperate with you, what do you do? And to my vice president to be potentially now, you are in SME. I remember South Korea is one country that comes to mind. Their middle class is still sustained because of the small and medium scale industries. What do you intend to do with your expertise in that aspect? Will you bring back the middle class to Nigeria? That's my question, please.
Okay, so 3 questions, creative sector, and then maybe we can let Malam Yusuf answer the other 2 that were directly addressed to him.
Okay. The creative sector, we are not neglecting it. We are looking at the companies that are met in Washington, D.C., areas where they have interest. It doesn't mean that we on our own will not do anything. Actually have an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce on 2,000 companies, identified companies coming here to work on those sectors. It doesn't mean on our own we're not going to do it. So I was reporting how we can rapidly generate 30 million jobs. So that's on that one. On the issue of creating 30 million jobs, it's not that complicated. The issue is that activity-based costing, activity bring employment. If you don't do activities, you don't invest in works, you are not going to get the employment. Now, regarding demographics, there is a difference between 350 million people who are illiterate, who are uneducated, and 350 million people, out of which you have all kinds of professionals in the world. So the quality of our population is what I'm interested in, is not the number. India, we cannot be as big as India or China. So don't worry about the absolute number, but the quantity, because even poor countries like Haiti, other countries who are small in quantity, can be in poverty. So don't let us worry about the number, but the quality of the population.
Okay, before we go to Malam Yusuf, let's take a question from University of Ibadan, who are back on the line. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello, Kadri, how are you doing? We are really looking forward to a lot more this evening on the first edition of the Candidates 2023. Of course, we have quite a lot to go, but we have students of University of Lagos, University of Ibadan, sorry, right here. And of course, they've been listening with keen attention and looking forward to what the candidates tonight have to offer Nigeria if they're given the chance to be president of the country. And I'm going to call on one of the students. He's from the Petroleum Engineering Department, and that's talking about Okori Ogbonaya, who would ask his question of the candidates today.
Okay, my name is Okori Ogbonaya. So my question boils down to the challenges facing our education sector. So we know that the issue of ASU has been going on strike since 1999. And in 2020, we had one of the highest ASU strike, then coming to the year 2022. So I want to ask, how do you intend to address the issue of education if you become a president? How do you intend to address this issue? And also, what economic plans do you have for Nigerians? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Yusuf, let's go to you. There were questions raised by Moses directly at you, and then we can look at the issue of education.
So on the issue of SMEs, right? Number one, you have to realize that the environment that where SMEs operated in Nigeria is very, very aggressive. It's very unfriendly to SMEs. Dealing with the tax authorities alone is a nightmare. Number two, the SME operators themselves have a lot of knowledge gaps. For example, the SME operators, a lot of them, you find out, especially the smaller ones, you find out that they don't even understand the difference between revenues and their profits. So once they start making money, they go right into their own capital and erode it. Number three, there is also the issue of access to finance. Right now, it's not very easy for SMEs to go and borrow. In fact, it's really very expensive. And even when they do get the money, a lot of times they are confused about how to utilize these funds. So you end up just creating bad debts. That is why a lot of banks are a bit apprehensive giving money out to SMEs. So when we come in, what we hope to do is to try and ensure that we give the SMEs a lot more training to understand how to operate within the environment. Okay, there's also the issue of Infrastructure. Infrastructure is also a major problem. Electricity, water, and all of that, not to mention insecurity now, because some of them are located in remote locations, which is where the operations have to be. And what is going on right now with security is not helping them. So all of these things are things that we've identified and things that we hope to address when we get into government.
Okay, and quickly I want to go to the University of Maiduguri for one more question. And then after the question, we'll go to break. And when we come back, we start with you responding to the outstanding questions and we carry the conversation on. Okay, University of Maiduguri, you're welcome to the candidates. We're listening.
I'm Musa Osman from University of Maiduguri, Kadria. You're on to Maiduguri, and we're here at the campus of University of Maiduguri with very wonderful young boys and girls seated here who are eagerly awaiting to ask questions. So I have the first question with me coming from one of our participants here, Yusuf. Yeah.
My name is Said Yusuf Tara from University of Maiduguri. My question goes like this. The presidential aspirant mentioned about the wealth of resources that Nigeria has. And my question is, when you elected as a president, how will you ensure that you maintain inclusiveness and corruption-free in redistribution of these resources for the benefit of all? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have literally just a minute and a bit to go before we take a break. So if you are able to answer one of the questions very shortly, we can do that. And then we'll go to break and come back.
Okay, let me deal with the issue of education.
Okay.
Education is a right. It's in the Constitution.
Yes.
Now, what makes us to even debate that issue is because we have had illegal and irresponsible government policies, which is that we must vote money for education first. So ASU will not go on strike in our time, but based on three measures. One, we are going to ensure that the Education Trust Fund, which was created by ASU, that we put independent trustees that ASU has good relationship with. ASU will not worry that that money is not being prioritized for them. This is number one of the problem. Number two is that we're going to have independent governing councils for the universities to ensure that we don't send politicians there who go to control this money. So the universities run themselves independently. Thirdly, we are going to create endowment fund for them, to get everybody to come and start giving universities donations and other things. So the government is said, whatever the government is doing, government will not run the universities anymore, but what the government will be doing is give the university endowment. So for us, we can decide to go and build hostels for all the universities outside their budget.
You will essentially be privatizing.
No, we're not privatizing. We're not privatizing.
Let's take a break.
Dangerous comment.
No, because that's what we will come back to it.
Because they don't understand?
No, it's not
we are
about
saying that we're
understanding.
giving
It's that you're not giving enough detail for us to understand.
Academic independence, not the same thing as privatizing.
Okay. When
the chancellor and the council run the university, not the politician made minister of education.
Okay. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into the issue of education, because in addition to tertiary education, there are also problems at the foundational level with 18 million or so children out of school. Let's see what the SDP has in store for those children after the break.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Welcome back to the candidates, where I'm in conversation with the candidates of the SDP, Prince Adebayo and Malam Yusuf Buhari. We're also being joined by audiences across 6 Nigerian universities. We've spoken to the University of Ibadan, we've spoken to the University of Maiduguri. We have 4 more to go, one in Enugu, one in Port Harcourt, Abuja, and Bayero University, Kano, my own alumni. We also have studio audiences who've been asking questions. Before the break, we had started a conversation on ASU.
Yes.
And you basically started talking about academic independence, etc., etc. I'm trying to understand because sometimes I think when politicians talk, it's like they take one aspect of a problem and they run with it. I'm not quite sure that we have actually understood what ASU is making 7 demands of the government. You've only dealt with 1. How are you going to deal with the other 6?
No, I've dealt with them all because many of the demands that are bringing to the government are not supposed to lie with the government. The way the universities were designed, they had governing councils with a pro-chancellor, then vice-chancellor, and then you have the Senate, then you have the faculty boards. Now, what the government is a visitor to the university, and because government created the university with the Public Act, government said we are going to be funding the university. But what the government has been doing is not funding the university.
But the actual problems are not just about funding.
I'm coming to something. The government is not funding the university. Government is actually micromanaging the university. Because government is not micromanaging the university, a lot of the initiatives that the school want to take on their own, regarding, for example, the University of your alumni, Bayero, may decide that it wants to specialize in a certain area and raise the salaries of specialists in that area. They should be able to have the opportunity to do it on their own. They should not be struggling with having a universal scale for lecturers all over the place. So what we are doing is that we return their powers to them and say, as from today, with SDP in power, all universities you are self-governing. So you are now a university on their own. I will not send you post-chancellor or anything, sort yourself out. Now, what I will do for you is that I will give you endowments. So you run yourself. So many of these catalog of issues, academic freedom...
So they will cease to be federal universities.
They will be federal...
It's like I said, and you were saying that I misunderstood.
No. For example, federal judiciary, Supreme Court, is federal judiciary. But the President Buhari doesn't have a minister for judiciary.
No, he doesn't.
University.
He doesn't. But the government has a say in appointing judges.
Yes, so...
And it funds the judiciary and all of that. So you can't, there's an independence.
No, I set up a governing council. The governing council governs. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you still have a hand in appointing...
governing council, but I will not send somebody who is shouting SDP power for me, SDP progress, a politician. No, I will look around and say, Professor Tomori, come here and be vice chancellor here, pro-chancellor here. But he knows that that day is the last day I'm talking to him. So then I have development plans.
So this is essentially us. So the day you leave, so you have not institutionalized anything really, because it's based on you doing the right thing as prince, because you believe what you're doing is the right thing. If another president comes that doesn't believe that he can still appoint people, but he might not appoint somebody who's competent.
No,
I'm trying to understand the institutional changes that you're trying to make that will outlive you.
Okay, let me explain to you. Once you have the university laws the way they are, is written, everybody who is appointed based on the University of Lagos Establishment Act. So I'm amending those laws to ensure that they have more autonomy. And the position of visitor, as it was in the First Republic, is purely academic. Balewa was not telling Kennedy how to run UI.
And hopefully we will get an opportunity to talk to you about how you intend to work with the National Assembly. Because a lot of these things that you're talking about require legislative cooperation. But I don't want to leave education because I want to quickly ask Mayam Buhari, who comes from the north, what the plan SDP has for the 18 million out-of-school children, the majority of whom are in the northern part of the country. But before I do that, Bayero University is online. Your university as well, I think. You went to Bayero,
University of Maiduguri.
You went to Maiduguri, okay. I thought you went to the UK as well. Okay, so Bayero University, your questions, please.
Welcome to Bayero University, Kano. It has been a very, very interesting conversation. Our students here have been paying close attention to Prince Adewale Adebayo. We have so many questions here, and I'll start from Faith Abba from the Faculty of Communication, who has a question to ask the aspirants.
All right, good evening, sir. It's my privilege to be amongst the students. My question is this. So we've been talking about education and what you are about to, you're about to do. My question is, we've not really spoken about unemployment so far. So as Nigerian students, my question is, after school, I've noticed that a lot of Nigerian students after school do not have jobs. They're unemployed on the streets, doing nothing. So what will you say about unemployment in Nigeria? Even people with first class, second class, upper do not have jobs. So what will you say about it? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much for that question, Faith. It takes us to your 30 million jobs. So do we have more questions from Kano?
Yes, we have more questions.
Okay.
We have Ibrahim Sani
Okay,
and
please
Esther
go
Michael.
ahead.
So let's start with Ibrahim Sani.
Okay.
Good day to you all, Mr. Prince.
Zoom into him. Ibrahim needs to speak up. We can't hear him.
Okay, I have two questions, and one is regarding the issue of food security in this country. We have been facing challenges with the conundrum of import and export in relation to food security. From the return of democracy today, we have practiced both open border and protectionism, and it all seems to not be working. So I want to know what plan is Mr. Adebayo is having on the issue of food security in this country. And my next question is one that kind of touched almost everything. All this issue of security, unemployment, education, ASU strike, and everything that we are having is directly related to the economy of the country, because mostly it is a lack of enough money to cater for everything that is kind of creating the problem that we are having. So, Mr. Prince Adebayo, I don't know what type of economic plan do you have for this country? Like, are you planning to practice open market, that is kind of capitalist economy, or are you going to go with the normal socialist system that we used to have? Or what is your plan?
I think we have to allow Ibrahim to take a break here, because the question is, okay, so if we could get you to talk to the question on the 18 out of school children, and then we can come back to the Prince to deal with the issues raised by the last few callers. And I don't necessarily want us to go back to these 30 million jobs, but there were other questions raised around food security, which have to do with also the insecurity in the country, closed borders, the philosophy that will underpin your financial model for Nigeria, etc.
Before our PP says something, I just want to make something clear.
Yes.
Our PP is from the north.
Yes.
But the problem of the north belongs to all of us.
I understand.
So the fact that it's from the north
I
is not the reason why
but you know,
yes,
it's important that we also
it
talk.
affects all of us.
Yes.
Whatever happens in
if
north,
we elect you and you become president and you are not around and you travel, he's the president.
Yes.
So Nigerians need to be able to.
No, I understand. I'm just saying that we should not say because it's from the north.
I know.
And they can no. All of us are affected by it.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So 18 million out of school children, not all in the north, but the majority in the north.
So
how will the SDP deal with that?
So first of all, we have to work with the states. We have to encourage them to make legislations and to enforce legislation that is going to help us move these children out of school. We also have to try and encourage them to try. For example, I'm aware that a lot of them do not actually pay up their counterpart funding that has to do with a lot of things, including education. So we have to try and encourage them to do that as well, so that we can put a lot more funds into education and cater for this program.
Encouragement doesn't sound like a plan.
Well, we can't force the states to do these things, but we can encourage them, we can work with them, we can give them incentives, to make them to own up to their responsibilities. Then the other one has to do with the informal, I would say, the Almajiri problem, which is a real big issue. There was a plan some time ago with a couple of friends of mine that we submitted to Konkoso when he was governor of Kano State. We gave him a plan that had to do with relocating some of the schools out of Kano at that time to the local governments. We'd partner with the local governments, get land from them, and then locate the schools where the teachers are local.
And is this an SDP plan?
Yes, it's something we've talked about, but we haven't really come together with it. But we've discussed it, and we're like, okay, this is something we can discuss and develop further.
Okay.
So this is, we're working on that, right?
Let's quickly, and the reason why I say quickly is because, again, I want to involve as many of the remote sites as possible. Can we quickly deal with the question raised around food security, particularly in light of the fact that insecurity has meant that some of our farmers are not actually able to farm, and we've seen people running away from, traditionally farming communities to settle in cities as a result of banditry, terrorism, etc., etc. So if you could deal with the two issues of food security and lack of security.
So basically, I'm a farmer, a very serious farmer, so it's my area. First, we must deal with insecurity because we must control every square inch of our land. Not just because of agriculture, we must control every square inch of our land. I just came back from Mubi, Madagali, and all those places where these troublemakers are. I think we can deal with it decisively. That's number one. For farming,
No. You can deal with them decisively.
Yes.
How? What will you do differently to what a former general that has spent 8 years in office has been doing?
Let me tell you, what the former general has been doing is enriching his boys and just throwing money at them.
So as far as you're concerned, the Nigerian army, let me understand. The reason why I'm saying this is, and I'm looking for it, you've spoken on insecurity, and you seem to be quite dismissive of how serious it is. You've used the word skirmishes. You've also seemed to imply that the Nigerian army and the Nigerian armed forces are somehow not doing enough, despite the fact that they are dying every day. So it's important to clarify what you mean.
First and foremost, not just me talking. I'm talking with active people on the field. The places I have stepped my feet, just because when I was an aspirant, when I was a candidate, President Buhari as commander-in-chief, I dare not go near the place. So what I'm saying is that I've seen combat troops, I've talked to them, I've talked to staff, I've talked to people, I've talked to communities. 4 days ago, I was right there at the border of Cameroon, talking with people. I sat and ate at the place where Boko Haram used to have its headquarters. So I'm not talking theory here. So, what I'm letting you know is that the army knows what to do. What the army is not able to do, army cannot disobey government. If you look at the battle plans that the soldiers have, different battle plans, they will finish Boko Haram in 6 months and they will be gone. However, when you are in the army and you write a plan, let me give you, Irabo is chief of defense staff now. When he was commanding 7th Division, he had his plan. Now, halfway he was removed from there. What's he going to do? So what I'm letting you know is that the army is strong enough. These are mere skirmishes. As commander-in-chief, I will ensure, for example,
60,000 people have died in the last 10 years.
I respect the people who have died. Let me give you an example.
You can't call that a skirmish.
Let me tell you, it's a skirmish. Let me tell you, you can die in a skirmish, you can die in the bathroom. The issue is this. Look at the Civil War. If you look at Adekule's report, Adekule, when he did the OAU plan, he said in a few weeks, I will end the war. He was not able to end the war because the people above him at staff level did not give him authorization to end the war. At the end of the day, when he was launching his memoir, Gawan came and read all the plans. Gawan said, I'm sorry. While I was head of state, I never saw any of these things. What I'm letting you know, with due respect, is that the soldiers are serious people. They are okay. But in the villa, in the Ministry of Defense, the NSA's office, they are all contractors, and they're making trillions. And they don't want this.
So there's a war economy, you think, that means
I know that they don't want this thing to end. And what I'm letting you know right now is that Boko Haram, I talked to the Air Force.
And
people.
when you're president,
I talked to Down Suleiman, you cannot doubt that Down Suleiman is one heck of an Air Force pilot. He said he's wondering because I've talked to people who fought in Liberia with all the foliage. They were able to knock out the entire
And the question still, Prince, is not that we're saying that you genuinely believe that that is the case. So the question is, when you get in there, what makes you think that the same people that are still making, how will you ensure that that war economy that you say is responsible for the perpetuation of the problems, how do you bring it to an end when everybody
It's very simple.
is there?
There's no everybody. I'm the president.
Okay.
You only stay
So you rule by caveat.
First and foremost, I'm being elected to be a commander-in-chief.
Right.
I'm in charge of the armed forces. I don't share that power with anybody, not even with this gentleman who I like very much. I'm the commander-in-chief. So it's very clear that I appoint service chiefs who are warriors. not business people. I ensure that I don't give them notes and make people who sponsor me in politics to be rich. That is the reason why I'm not flying using the helicopter. I'm not using the airplane. I'm not collecting their money. So you go there and say, I am not going to be involved in blood money business. I'm going to stay there and I'm going to ensure that we go remove all this nuisance from the people. And now we invest that money in the economy of Nigeria. That I will do. However, if you, your family members, people around you, are now supplying uniform, supplying food, making money out of it, it's not going to end. And that is what is happening. So we deal with that decisively. Then with respect to agriculture, you only need, for food security, you only need 3 or 4 or 5 states, and you are okay. The fact that people are displaced from their farming communities, you will take years to take them back. And when we take them back, we're not taking them back to manual farming, but taking them to mechanized farming.
Okay, just hold on there, and I'm going to go straight to the University of Abuja, who are on standby. University of Abuja, can you hear us? I was told University of Abuja is ready.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, we can hear you. Thank you very much for joining us at the University of Abuja. We have a lot of students here who are very much interested in the Social Democratic Party candidates, and they have a couple of questions. I'll start with Antonia. Antonia, you have your questions.
Good evening, Abba Antonia from the Department of Public Administration. My question is directed to the presidential candidate, Prince Adewale Adebayo. I'd like to ask what his plans towards revaluing the country's naira. His plan towards revaluing the country's naira, thereby increasing the standard.
The value of the naira, I think is what she's saying. Okay, the audio is not too great, so I'm going
of citizens.
I think what she's trying to say, Kidaria, is on the valuing of the naira. She's talking about, her question is directed to the presidential candidate on the valuing of the naira. What is he going to do regarding the economy?
Okay. Any other person, University of Abuja, or is that all?
Yes, we do. No, we have another person.
We'll take
Raphael.
one more, please. Yeah.
Okay, Raphael.
Good evening. My name is Raphael Ikbebe. My question is directed to the candidate of the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party. My question is, what are the first 3 things he hopes to do to achieve to raise Nigerians' confidence in government, considering that an average Nigerian has lost total confidence in them? So, what does he hope to achieve in this regard? That's my question, sir.
Okay. So 2 questions, important questions around the value of our currency and belief in government.
Okay. The way to handle naira is to look at 2 things, which quickly. One is the fiscal side. That is to say, income and revenue. What the government has been doing wrong, not only this one, the one before it, is that they don't collect proper revenue. And they spend. So they go into deficit finance. And to go into deficit, there are so many instruments. You have to issue treasury bill and all of that. So you put a lot of money in inefficient places. Secondly, the central bank has to work to defend the naira. And there are 2 ways to defend the naira. You defend the naira in terms of inflation. You see that the naira in January is still the same, has the same strength in December. Secondly, you defend the value of the naira against foreign currencies, which means you watch for balance of trade and balance of payment. So this is the area in which I'm going to defend the naira. I'm not telling you that
So you'll be interfering in monetary policy?
No.
You will become CBN?
No. I'm going to put in the central bank, for the first time in a long time, an economist. Who they have there now is a banker who's behaving like a cashier. So he doesn't know that he can hold his own. And when the government is making mistake on the fiscal side, that he will balance it on the monetary side. Remember, there are 4 objectives we have to create. You have to create purchasing power parity, so that when I receive my salary in January and I buy food, when I receive my January in April, I can still buy the same amount of food or pay the same rent. Second, I have to ensure that money has coefficients, and I do what we call in macroeconomics called allocative efficiency. That is to say, I don't allow government contractors, politicians, to have access to money, whereas those who want to create industries or produce things don't have money. Third thing you need to achieve.
So will you be banning the multiple exchange rates, for example, so that people will be buying dollar regardless of what they need it for at the same price that is determined essentially by demand?
The multiple exchange rate is multiple exchange crime. Because they design it that way so that if you are close to the CPN governor, you get it, immediately sell it to the other person who is not close to him, and you make $100 million by doing nothing. What you have is what it should be. You have a system where it floats one rate. However, before you can find the naira to go and buy the dollar, you have to work for the naira. Right now, majority of those who have control of our naira don't work for it. A majority of those who work don't have any naira in their pocket. That is why when they want to change, they say they want to change currency now. No poor man is having sleepless night because there's no naira in our pocket anyway. It is the people in government and politics who are now jumping all over the place. So the first thing we need to do is to ensure that the only way the end of monetary and fiscal policy is a convergence where you have full employment. Any economy that has increase in quantitative availability of money that does not increase employment and reduce unemployment is not working. So that's why I have about 6 or 7 economists that I'm considering to put in central bank, and each of them understand it. And
and you give them full independence.
They have full independence, but they must first have full common sense. That's why I'm talking to them right now. And let me explain to you. The central bank doesn't have only one governor. It has a board of governors.
Yes.
The governor and deputy governors.
Yes.
So these people, I'm talking to them in that cluster. So they already are working together. They understand each other. They know what we are doing. And remember, one of them lost their job because he was trying to do that monitoring the fiscal side to say, why is it that NNPC was not remitting $20-something billion at that time? And I asked him the question, why did you lose your job? He lost his job because he went to the president and told the president, look at the argument between me and the Minister of Finance and the NNPC. See the evidence. The president saw the evidence.
Yeah, time is really against us. So it's important that, we try brevity.
Some of the issues are very
I understand, but you also know that a lot of people came out so they can talk to you. So I want to open this up to the audience in here. Questions for the candidates? Please, I want to make sure on both floors. Yes, sir. Your name, please.
My name is Uka Chukwudikalu.
We can't hear you.
My name is Uka Chukwudikalu. So I have a question. We all know that in Nigeria, prices of goods and services go up and never come back down. And we see these things happen often. How will you curb these issues when you become president?
Okay.
Any other person? There's a lady over there.
Good evening. My name is Yemi Candide Johnson. I'm a senior advocate of Nigeria. The problems of Nigeria are historically entrenched and practically intractable. And what is required to put into effect many of the solutions that yourself and other candidates will propose is a will which requires leadership sacrifice. Now, it's very easy to make these statements, but I wondered, are you willing as a leader to sacrifice your life for Nigeria? And if so, why?
These are two strong questions. The young man says things when they go wrong, they never seem to repair themselves. You could deal with that, I think, very quickly. But this is a sort of deeper question around sacrifice and what it means to be a leader. And then I have a question from Toun Shoneye that I want to sort of piggyback on this. And she basically wants the two of you to tell her what sort of commitment you're going to make to gender equity when you are in office. Will you commit to the 35% representation in your cabinet? And if so, please explain further. If not, what are you prepared to commit to?
Okay. Let me start with the first question. It's a basic, when price of things go up, they don't come down. It's basic demand and supply. The supply side is where the problem lies. So what we need to do is to make sure that we have enough production and to ensure that we are not a rent-seeking society where people don't produce things and they hoard things for the value that they have. And that has to do with stability of the currency. Once a currency is stable, you assume that if I buy 2 bags of rice today, when I come back in 6 months' time, the price will not be much different. You will take care of that, and then you do production. But to do production, the government is always the lead anywhere in the world, including US, including China, anywhere. The government must make sure that it makes money available to the productive sector. This is what we're going to do. With respect to the issue of sacrifice, we are already making sacrifice. We are spending our resources, we are spending our time, and we are going to places by road, by everywhere that other candidates dare not go to. We also say, 2 of us commit, that we are going to declare our assets. So you know what Yusuf has, you know what I have. So it's very clear. We live by example. Then, with respect to life, I don't think that one has control over his life. What you should not do is live in fear. We are going to take decisive action. I travel on the roads that Nigerians travel. The worst possible road they talk about, I go there. So I think I conquered fear long ago. But what I'm going to do is to ensure that when I'm sitting in that office and we are there, 2 of us will not say, oh, this is the right way to go. But what will happen to us? Let us go this way.
Okay. Before you deal with the gender issue, I want to take a few comments from Twitter. I think we have a few Twitter comments. Can you roll them, please? You said there are a few comments from Twitter. Okay, while we're waiting for them to load them.
The gender issue,
yes.
maybe Yusuf will answer that, but let me say clearly is that.
Why don't you have a female vice president?
Because nature, you know, we started with a female. Yusuf was number 2. We had a few of us planning, and we decided to put Nafisa Bolori as our VP, and Yusuf was going to manage the campaign. Then in the course of the thing, Nafisa had a family issue. The family has sickness, and she's going to the hospital, and she said to us, well, we are the same. I can't be a VP who is going to the hospital and coming. So maybe I should withdraw, and when we withdraw, and we'll have Yusuf. The 4th person in that group happens to be a Yoruba like me, and that's Khadija. We thought, why should we, it will be news all over.
But,
if you have a Yoruba president and a Yoruba
serious conversation around gender and representation.
Yes, so just to answer you that we started with female, and we have majority of our membership are female also. With respect to gender issue, we don't believe that just nominating women without having gender-sensitive, gender-friendly policies is correct. So we start with policy. Second, when it comes to 35%, we don't deal with that. We deal with 50-50.
So you're committing that your cabinet will be 50-50?
We start with 50-50. It's only when you can't find a woman, you have decided to go into 2. It's only if you can't find a woman to take that slot, then we'll
that is competent and able
to. I say, look, this slot is 50-50. Because 50-50 of the population is female.
Okay.
But if I'm looking for example, Army, Navy, Air Force, and the police, I want to have 50. If the Army is a man, the Navy should be a woman. But if the next woman in the Navy is a commodore, then I will say, oh, I can't help you. Then we work towards that. Okay. That's the balance of it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prince Adebayo. Don't forget, if you are watching us on the social media, the hashtag is NG, the candidates, and if you send your comments, we'll be sure to take as many as we can. Let me go to the email questions that we have from other candidates while I wait for the other university campuses to join us, right? Mrs. Iyabo Arinola Awokoya says, do you believe in resource control? Do you think agitations for self-governance by groups in some regions are valid? If yes, as a president sworn to preserve the Constitution, would you be willing to consider their request to secede?
You can't secede, period. Let's not even discuss that. Nobody secedes nowhere. However, I believe in resource control for the practical reasons that there are resources everywhere in the country. It's not efficient to manage all our resources at the center. And the federal government's business is not trying to develop every part.
Okay.
Let people who are closest to the resource manage the resource.
Okay.
However, the revenue that is coming to the federal government must come to the federal government.
Okay, so that's a simple, straightforward. Let's go back to the issue of you don't believe people should secede. What about a people's right to self-determination?
The people's right to self-determination is basically that when you are in a country, a foreigner outside your country is not coming to rule you. That's the definition of self-determination.
So if I'm in a country and I'm not happy, I shouldn't have the right to walk away.
You can walk away. That's why we issue passports.
That is the idea of walking away.
Yes, if you are
This is a serious conversation we're having, no.
No, yes, because if you are a Nigerian and you're not happy with Nigeria, you just go to the passport.
Many Nigerians don't have the privilege of migration. I do need you to take this matter seriously.
No, because
you seem to be a bit flippant with it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to sort of. This is a sober conversation.
Because the notion of not being happy with your country and breaking your country is even sillier than the notion. Because how do you break your country because you're not happy? You change the condition that's not making you happy.
Yeah, but historically, countries have broken out. Even in Africa here, until recently, Ethiopia and Eritrea were big countries.
Yes.
After a lot of bloodshed, they realized it was foolish for people to stay married if they didn't want to be.
Yes.
A referendum was, conducted, and Eritrea became an independent state.
Yes.
Throughout history,
it's not the same with
I'm saying if people don't want to be together.
Who determines that? The people in Nigeria want to be together.
Yeah, so
I don't have a problem with that.
If you are my Nigerian president,
yes.
I come to you and I say, I don't feel like being part of Nigeria. Don't you have a responsibility to create a mechanism through which people like myself can actually test and see the popularity of our notion of being able to go away?
No,
like a referendum?
To be sincere,
yes.
If you walk up to me and you say you're not happy, you want to leave Nigeria as a person?
No, I'm talking about group of people.
I think that's where we're looking for therapy at that point, which is to ask, why are you not happy? And we have been having this conversation. What I want to let you understand is that I've gone around the country. I've been to every of the 774 local governments. I have not met a people who want to leave Nigeria. I think let's go to Enugu because they're actually on the line, waiting for us. And I suspect from the southeast you'll find a few people who will tell you that that is not the case and that you are wrong. People in the southeast don't want to live in
Enugu.
Nigeria. They want to be happy in Nigeria. That's what they are protesting.
Hello? Do we have Enugu on the line? Enugu was ready a few minutes ago. Are you still on the line? Okay. Enugu, we're listening. Hello, Enugu? Enugu, please unmute yourself. It seems you're muted. That's why we can't hear you. Kindly unmute yourself. Okay, I don't want to waste time, so we'll come back to Enugu.
Good evening from the Coal City. We're here at Coal City University. I am a former Ajumobi, and students here have been very interested in the engagement so far. They have some questions. We'll take two questions from Chimerem and Israel. Chimerem, please, let's hear you.
Okay, my name is Chimerem Ajinta from the Department of Maths and Computer Science in Coal City University. This is directed to the presidents or the to-be presidents of Nigeria. As president, what are the steps, the practical steps or measures that you intend to take or put in place to ensure that the resources gotten from oil companies and others are not stolen and are used appropriately for Nigerians? Thank you.
Do we have a few more questions from Enugu?
Yes, we have another one here from Israel. Israel, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Israel Chuku. From an article in an interview I read earlier today, you said, I am a social democrat because I care about investing in people. adding that the government's resources must be spent on the left side of the divide. Please, what do you mean by the left side of the divide? And I want you to elaborate more on what you mean by the left side of the divide. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you very much, Enugu.
But now, this too, yes.
Okay. If we can sort of just wrap up the conversation we were having before we then dive into these two other questions. So, you are convinced that the people from the East, what they want is equity?
We have heard from two of them now. Nobody wants to secede from there.
Well,
yeah, so you can see.
It's not representative.
Yeah, you can see.
Because we can also say to you, you know, we know that IPOB is there. We've seen the troubles in the East as a result of agitation for Biafra, and it's been historical. So it's not even something that started.
Let me explain what I understand at IPOB, because I'm a leader. You need to know what I understand.
Hang on. Let me just ask the question. Okay. So my question still remains: if you are the president of a whole of a country, and a particular part of that country is so dissatisfied with the conditions in the country that they're saying to you, we genuinely want a pathway to be able to determine our life outside this union, you will not consider it?
It will not, because just like me go to my mother and say, I don't want to be your son again. She's not going to listen to me. She's going to say, you need a doctor or something's wrong with you. What did I do to you? So what I hear from the Southeast, from these people, from IPOB, is that we want to be treated as a full Nigerian. Period. I have more respect, with due respect, for Nnamdi Kanu than those who are in government now, because they are even worse than Nnamdi Kanu, because they are the one giving license to people complaining. Areas where you need to be inclusive, they don't want to be inclusive. What the Southeast wants is that when you are dealing with Nigeria, deal with us fairly. When you are distributing infrastructure, give us fairly. Whether we vote for you or not, when you are in government, let us be well represented. Don't discriminate against us. They are not asking for more than that. Any government that does it, remember.
So let me just ask you something.
Yeah.
Maybe in that case you should support Peter Obi for president, because the Southeast is demanding equity.
And Peter Obi is Southeast, so
they've never led this country since independence as president outside. I'm talking about democratically elected leaders. So if genuinely you believe that what they want is inclusion, and inclusion comes at the highest level of government, including who should be president, you should walk your talk. Okay, now, it is unfortunate for Nigeria if you believe that Southeast means Peter Obi. No, I didn't say Peter Obi means South. I said that they have a representative now that's contesting for office. First and foremost, you are failing your listeners, because they have ABGA, the most popular party in the Southeast, has produced Peter Omadi. You are choosing to ignore him. No, I'm not. No, because any of the two Peters, you can choose to support. Because it is unfortunate that you mentioned the name of another candidate who is the least qualified of people who have come out of the Southeast. You're not talking of Peter Mahdi, who was chief judge. So let's not personalize it. No, because you did it. The general point I was trying to make, okay, is that if genuinely you believe what you've said about what the Southeast wants is representation, is not to be marginalized, and etc., etc. These presidential elections represent an opportunity for them to feel included at the highest level. And they have several candidates that you pointed as contesting for office. So you could make it easier for us to get a Southeastern president by stepping away. Now let's say my stepping, as I step anywhere, is not going to change anything. You know why? I've been having constant conversation with the people from the Southeast who are in the politics. In fact, Peter, maybe you wouldn't want me to say it, but I spent till almost 1 a.m. with Peter Omaya. They were discussing these same issues. Because a serious-minded person who has been chief judge of Anambra State, who's a professor of law, who has no blemish, he doesn't have foreign account, his name has not been involved in any scandal, he has no history of criminality before, he's not hiding anything, he's not invested state money in family property, he's not doing any of this nonsense. So I have a lot of respect for him. So we are talking. And we are looking at the fact that the two of us are not doing private treaty. We are talking all over the country to try to get everything together. And just like I spoke at Adewale House, northern interest, unlike what Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is saying, doesn't mean northern candidate. Southern interest doesn't mean southern candidate. Southeast interest doesn't mean southeast candidate.
So we are discussing on what are the priorities of the Southeast, and I've been engaging everybody. I'm going to go to Enugu shortly to continue our conversation. What the people of Southeast want is not you to pick one nominal Igbo man and say he's now there, and it's a person who has a bad history of poor governance with them. They're not going to follow you. In 1978, the issue came up. That was how Alex Ekweme came out to become vice president. And if Buhari had not gone to commit constitutional illegality and criminality that he committed, Ekweme would have succeeded Shagari as president. So this thing has process. You are not going to be able to become Nigeria president as a representative of your people, as a compensation for your people. No, you are going to become Nigeria's president because the consensus of all Nigerians come together and recognize you as a natural leader for the country. And for that reason, I'm talking to people who are from Southeast. We are working together. I am not representing sections. And we need to be serious about this leadership of Nigeria. Those who were shouting in 2015, it's our turn, it's our turn. Now it's their turn to cry. So what we want to know, I went to Bayelsa recently, and they were praying for me to become president because the Bayelsa man who became president never solved Bayelsa problem.
Okay.
So let us understand that clearly.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question coming up that I'm trying to read. Sorry, I'm half blind, so I'm a little bit distracted. Okay, just a quick question. How will Mr. Adebayo and Mr. Yusuf ensure that women's rights are protected, especially around issues of health, education, early child marriages, etc., etc.? I don't know the person, their name is not yet up, but that's a question that has just been sent via social media.
Yeah, I think I will learn from what Yusuf said. Some of these things, Nigeria, we need to know that it's a federation. So even though I'm president, I don't have control over the governor of Kano State or governor of Ondo State, where I come from. What you have is power of leadership and persuasion. And when we have the Council of State, we set certain targets. And our job is to ensure that first we update the laws across the state. We also update the policies across the state. We also give funding to support the state. For example...
How will you do that? Because I'll give you the reason why I'm asking that. The VAP law, for example, violence against people, which is sort of a gender-friendly law in many ways. It's sort of had a checkered history across this country. In some states, it was domesticated very quickly. In other states, it hasn't even been. In others, it had to be watered down, and it was very problematic. And if we sort of look at the history of the way these kind of laws happened, it isn't that easy or that straightforward. So when you say, you will pass laws, I'm interested in the how.
Okay, this is how. Remember, all over the world, social issues, cultural issues are problematic. If you go to California, you can have as many abortions as you want. If you come to Alabama, you will go to jail. So you can go to New York and do as many abortions as you want, but if you try that in Texas, you go to jail. Issues that have to do with social aspects. The problem with those laws was that many state governments found that they were in those laws, there are certain sections that infuse foreign culture into the law. And what we need to do, that is their understanding of it. I've listened to state government, I've listened to legislation, they will say, these aspects are against our culture. Now, not that I agree with them, but what I'm saying is that if you create a state and say Zamfara State, it's a sovereign state. It has its own assembly. So what you can do is persuasion. And the way I'm doing
I, as a woman, and I'm glad you use Zamfara, because I happen to be from Zamfara.
Exactly.
And so I, as a woman or a child living in Zamfara that is not getting an education, which by your earlier assertions should be a right. I'm not getting proper, health care. I'm being married off at 11, 12. And your response as my president to the fact that I'm saying to you, how will you protect my rights, is that the men in your state say this is their culture.
This is what I do. There are many things the men didn't agree to in the past that they now agree to. My job as a leader, as head of state, is to have communion with the leadership there. The emirs, the council of ulamas, the state government, the House of Assembly members, and to set certain reward and standard. So in this community, if you have zero gender violence issue, this is what we invest in your community. For some, we have to create sanctuaries. So if you're a family and you are living in Zamfara State, and I can come and educate you in another adjoining state while I'm talking to this issue. You remember in America, when it was in the South, the Kennedy government went to the South and said, okay, they are giving you problems. They don't want equal education. You can come to Chicago. You can come to school. So population moved. And I don't believe that there's a state government that can stop you from moving from their territory if you have federally protected areas where your rights have been protected.
By the way, you must not forget to answer the questions from Enugu.
Yes.
But let me take a few from our last location in where are we? In Bayelsa. So let's get from the south, Bayelsa. Are you ready, Bayelsa? Can you hear us?
Thank you very well. Thank you so much, Kadaria, for the opportunity.
Bayelsa, are you ready? I was told you're ready. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
There seems to be a slight delay.
Yeah, quickly, we'll have a couple of questions for the presidential candidate of the SDP. And you're listening from Bayelsa, the capital. We would like to call on the first person, who is Engineer Chima, to come quickly and ask us questions.
Good evening. I'm Henry Chima Anatri. Good evening, please. Henry Chima Anatri, a media practitioner and educationalist. Please, quickly, the internet and the technology have flattened the political playing field, allowing for collective decision making in new ways. How would you, the presidential candidate, balance our ability to have a more participatory democracy with the need for executive decision making? That's number one. Number two, can you give us 3 concrete examples from your past as to how you change the culture of an organization and how that would affect undeveloped nature of Niger Delta in respect to flooding and infrastructural decay you recently stated by Bayelsa State? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have another question. I would like to call Mr. Dressman to quickly ask his question.
Good evening, everybody. I think it's a follow-up question. And the question is, the Niger Delta area is seen as a region that lays the golden egg. But the development of the Niger Delta area is not commensurate with the fund that is going out of the Niger Delta area, because I know that the 13% reservation that is coming into the area cannot assist the developmental needs of the region. If eventually Nigerians have this confidence and you become the president of this country, how will you, through legislation, review the 13% reservation and bring practical development to the Niger Delta area? Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I could ask you, thank you very much. Oh, you have another question, Bayelsa? Okay. Thank you very much. In asking those, answering those questions, bearing in mind we are almost running out of time, could you leave the questions regarding your experience last? Because I want to piggyback off it to wrap up the show.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And by the way, we don't hear much about from Malam Yusuf's, you know?
He's a thinker, I'm a talker.
Yeah, right, okay.
But you can put it anytime you want.
Yeah.
No, but the issue is this. Let's start with derivation. The 13%, with due respect, is nonsensical. It's just like a palliative. It doesn't make sense. We go back to what we agreed upon in 1959 at Lancaster House, 50-50. If you have any resource in your community, you control 50% of it, you pay the 50% back to the center. It's fair to us because every part of this country has enough resources that you can treat that way. So nobody starts to suspect the other. Let's do it that way. I'm okay with that. With respect to Enugu, I think there are 2 questions from Enugu.
Yeah, but except I know I don't want to die, but you know, to do that, you will need the National Assembly. And even the recent amendments that they've tried to pass, you can see that they've hit bottlenecks because, that sort of comprehensive amendment requires the states to also endorse. And we've seen areas where, for example, the state houses of assembly are at odds with the National Assembly, and that hasn't happened. So I'm
don't
very,
need to amend the Constitution.
There's a lot of things that you kind of say you want to do that require consensus, and I'm not quite clear how we're getting that.
First, you don't need constitutional amendment.
No, you need the National Assembly.
Yeah, National Assembly, no problem.
Yes.
I
just gave an example of the problems of constitutional amendment.
Yes, you see, that's why leadership is there. It is not a Niger Delta program. It's a national program. Everybody is facing the same thing. Zamfara is facing that with gold, Osun with gold, lithium in Niger State, in FCT. For example, the people in Abuja, how did they lose all their land and we became land speculators? The Gwari people want their land. So all of that, we do a comprehensive justice-based approach across the country. So everybody is taking 50% of what is on their side. So it's very clear. So it's not one-sided. There's no poor part of Nigeria. It's just that some assets are legacy assets because they've invested in it in the past. Some are greenfield. So for example, look at Kogi, for example. They are struggling with a private company that is behaving like an alternative government there. They just want to give them their right. So the Kogi people will vote for it.
I'm not ready to be sued. We don't know that is the fact of that particular case.
That's a fact.
No, please, let's not get to that.
I'm listening to both sides.
They have the money to take me to court. So
yeah, but if you are going if you are going to talk politics, you have to know that the person who's going to lead Nigeria has to live with truth and justice. Whether somebody is unhappy or not, that's their cup of tea. So the issue is that every part of Nigeria wants to develop. The governors don't want to be useless governors and just paying salaries. They want to develop domestically. A lot of people overseas who are in the diaspora want to go back to their community and develop their community, but they don't want to have to land in Abuja first to get permit. So this is basically, for example, when I came with the floating solar, many states government want to do it with me, but my problem is I have to go to Abuja first, at the Ministry of Power, and go and get permission and never comes out. So in conclusion, we will do these things. I want to know the issue with respect to Enugu. The resources of this country are firmly controlled by the president. So anytime your money is missing, the president has stolen it. Don't let them deceive you. Either the president steals directly or he closes his eyes and allow people to steal it so that he can say, I'm a clean man. But he's receiving the stolen good by himself. So you will have in me.
You're basically saying the buck stops with him.
The buck stops with the president, the stealing stops with the president, the fraud stops with the president, everything that is wrong stops with him. So it's clear. So, and nobody gets appointed. This gentleman, as qualified as he is, he wouldn't be here if I didn't appoint him. So I take responsibility right from there. The same thing with my campaign, the same thing with people who serve with me in government. Elect somebody who is responsible, morally, ethically, professionally, and who can own up to what is wrong. No blaming somebody in the past or say, I don't know. So this is what I'm going to do. You can be sure that your resources will be taken care of. Not only that, we have the competence to know when something is wrong.
So here is where I have to, because I've got just a few minutes to go and I must wrap this program. Part of the problem or the criticism I've seen of you and your running mate is that you don't seem to have the requisite experience, track record to run for public office and to run an administrative office of the complexity of a Nigerian president. Your lack of experience, people believe, will be basically your Achilles heel. Because in fact, some people have spoken to say to me, you can tell they don't have experience because of the way they are talking and how they make it, they think it's easy to just do the things that many people say they will do those things, but they don't have experience. What is your response to that?
My response to that is number one, you've tried those who have experience. You've entered jeopardy. Two, when we are talking, those who have, your so-called people who have experience, don't even know what we are talking about because we give them information they don't have. I am not the president now. I'm not in the Navy now. I'm able to know how they are stealing your crude. I'm able to go there. I'm able to give you evidence. The president who is sitting there doesn't know. I'm able to know troop deployment. I'm able to visit war zones to know what is happening there. The person who has experience doesn't know. Then, in the past, since 1999, I've done a lot of consulting for government here, government overseas. You will have seen that when I was in the US, I was given a grand reception by the African Union. I was given a grand reception by the Ugandan government. I've consulted for companies all over the world. So I have cognate experience. What I don't have experience in is sitting down and blowing siren, doing nothing. What I don't have experience in is accepting status quo. I don't have experience in covering up failure. Okay. I have experience in accomplishing practical things. And if you go to Nigeria today, yes, you will see many policies, yes, and my ideas that the government has enacted to law.
Nigeria right now, very fractured country. All our fault lines seems to have been deepened, gotten worse in the last 8 years. Yes. How will you divide the country? How will you unite the country, Malam Yusuf, if you guys are elected into office?
The reason why we have this problem is because the government is not being honest with us. We are not satisfied with what the government is doing. There's a lot of poverty all over the place. Like you mentioned, people are not happy. People are jabbering all over the place. So really, what we need to do is just be honest with ourselves and do the right thing. That is all. Do the right thing, be honest, ensure that whatever resources we have with us, we use it judiciously for the Nigerian people. That is it. Once you're able to do that, Nigerian people are happy, you're not going to have all these problems.
So you think our problems of unity are about access to resources and being able to live well as a Nigerian?
Our problem...
That kind of dismisses the fact that even post-independence, we've had issues.
Our problem of unity is our problem of politics. The Nigerian people, when they are interacting among themselves, are united. When I went to marry my wife, I went to a place I've not been before. The gentleman has not seen me before. He listens to me. He gave the most precious asset in his life, his daughter, and said, "You can marry." How much trust do you want in that? When the elite are stealing money, have you not been seeing EFCC charge sheet? You will find Yoruba there, Hausa there, Fulani there. They are united in the robbery. So why is it that they can unite together and steal all the money, and they cannot be united together to pave road for us, to do all of that? They are using this thing to distract. That is the only problem that you have. You can see they are campaigning now. All of them are united in sharing the money. So it's only when they are in government and they have a little problem, they will say, they are not giving me because I'm Fulani, they are not giving me because I'm Yoruba. They're using that one to distract you. Are you not seeing Nigerian elite? Their children wed each other. One governor of Kano will give his daughter to the governor of Oyo State. What more unity do you want? They're only trying to distract you with their so-called division. The thing is that the only thing I want to unite in Nigeria today, I want to unite Nigerian people with their resources, which are in the hand of the elite.
Thank you very much, Prince Adebayo and Malam Yusuf Buhari, for joining us on the first edition of The Candidates. Sadly, we've run out of time, so we can't take it, much further. But I'm sure Nigerians will continue to talk, and certainly the campuses where this conversation, is going to take place, they are going ahead to record town halls now reacting to your appearance, which we will share, with the general public at the end of this series. So this is the first in the series of 6. Tomorrow, I sit down with the candidates of the AAC. And that's it. Mr. Ashore and Malam Magashi of the AAC will join us. And again at 6:30 p.m., there will be the Pundit Show, where we will look at those candidates ahead of the conversation. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.